today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about Jalen Smith. There's been a lot of trade buzz around Jalen Smith, which is as many as 5 teams reportedly being interested in monitoring the talent big man. So I want to talk about the reasons why the Chicago Bulls could trade Jalen Smith and some of the reasons why they could actually keep him, and I mean more long-term past even this season. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, the Chicago Bulls get ranked 13th in the Eastern Conference rankings, and Caleb Wilson just gave Bulls fans even more reason to be excited about his rookie years. He just made a big promise to Bulls fans everywhere. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize. But more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And I want to talk about Jalen Smith to start off the show. I know we got Caleb Wilson quotes and stuff like that to get into, but I do think that the Jalen Smith conversation is an interesting one because it's going to be a good barometer of not only how Bryson Graham feels about this roster, but also how competitive that we are this upcoming season. There's no doubt that Jalen Smith had a really solid season last year for the Chicago Bulls, playing nearly 60 games. He averaged 10 points, 6.7 rebounds in just over 20 minutes per game. He also shot the ball 37% from three, which is one of his better shooting seasons from three as well. And we heard at the trade deadline last year that the Philadelphia 76ers offered multiple second-round picks at the deadline, and Chicago said no. Now, we have changed the front office since then, so what that front office didn't accept for Jalen Smith could change under the new front office, absolutely, right? But this is the second time that the Philadelphia 76ers have offered us multiple second-round picks for a big man. Many people will remember the year before we lost Andre Drummond in free agency to the Philadelphia 76ers, reported that they had offered us multiple picks for him at the trade deadline also. The place that I sit in this conversation around Jalen Smith is that the Bulls should explore the market, as they should with most of their players, right? You want to stay engaged and ahead of whatever's going on in the market. So that's not a problem. The Chicago Bulls should be staying ahead of the market and what's going there. But I don't think that they should simply trade Jalen Smith just to collect low-volume second-round picks if that's what's being offered in regards to Jalen Smith. I just don't think that, right? On top of the 37% shooting on 4 attempts per game that he gave as well, had a true shooting percentage of 60%, had a rebounding percentage of 15%, meaning he got 15% of the available rebounds when he's out there on the court. That may not sound like a lot, but that's a huge, especially for a player that played away from the rim, because we didn't have him in the rim a lot, right? When we look at his net rating per those minutes that he played in, we were a plus 3.4 when Jalen Smith was on the court. And over half his field goal attempts came from the three-point range, meaning we kind of forced him out of the paint, right? We weren't running him in a lot of pick-and-roll opportunities. We weren't running him on a lot of the short roll, right? I think that's going to change some out of Thiago Splitter, especially with us putting the ball in Josh Giddey's hands a little bit more. And so on Jalen Smith's $9.3 million contract, it's not a huge contract. And so because the contract isn't huge, the value's obviously there with him as a player, as other teams see it as well. I think that you have to, also think about keeping him long-term. Now, I'm going to talk about all sides of the case. So if you hear me talk about the thing you don't like, I'll probably get to something that you do like, right? But I'm going to start off with this. Why would trading Jalen Smith make sense? I have 5 reasons why it would make sense, 5 reasons why the Bulls should keep him. The first reason on why it could make some sense is that the Bulls' front court is extremely crowded. When you look at it, you have Caleb Wilson, Montes Ellis as your starters. You got Jalen Smith. You got still Leonard Miller. God forbid if Noah Essengate or Patrick Williams earns minutes on this team as well, right? And then you also have Zach Collins, who's going to play some of the big man position too. And so even with Jalen playing the 4 and the 5, both those positions are pretty crowded, right? You have a number of players that can play, those positions there, and so I look at this and I say that Jalen Smith is a player that definitely can impact winning. And I think he can do that, right? So it comes down to, Nick Claxton's getting started center. We know Modest and Caleb are starting at the other forward spots, and if if Leonard Miller, right? And we don't know for sure. He finished the season extremely strong, but if Leonard Miller picks up right where he left off at, it would make a player like Jalen Smith a little bit more expendable in that case. I'm not saying expendable where you just trade him anyway, but it would make him a little bit more expendable in that case, right? And then I think you also have to look at this part of it. When people ask things like, well, why would we trade such a good player? Jalen Smith could leave next summer anyway. He's an unrestricted free agent. And so keep that in mind, right? And this isn't Madden or 2K where you can just max out the offer sheet and it means he's going to stay. He's a human with free will. And so if the Bulls have any inclination that Jalen Smith is going to walk to a contender in free agency, since it seems like so many are interested in him, you might as well trade him and get something back in that regard. So a team, rather than having to bid for him in free agency, you just have him and even extend him, right? So that's the thing that you look at, right? And I do think that the Bulls can view the current salary and the slot differently than what the last front office did. The Bulls can view Jalen Smith's salary as, hey, it's expendable because we do got Leonard Miller coming in here, right? Because we do feel confident in what Leonard Miller could be. That could be a thing here. It could be, hey, we've gained some confidence in Noah Essengate able to play that. I'm not saying that that's a likely thing, but I'm saying that it is, right? They could, again, value the flexibility because there is some redundancy in the roster. And number 4, we constantly have talked about how AK's missed evaluations by not trading player at the height of their value. And it could be, again, I'm not saying for sure, I'm not in these rooms, but it could be that Jalen Smith is now at the height of his value. And so at that point, if you have a number of contenders that are interested, and just to recap it, it's the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Golden State Warriors have been a team that's also been mentioned as being interested in them as well, right? So you have these teams that want them, and the value for those teams could be more than the value of the Chicago Bulls. Also, the Philadelphia 76ers have also been a team that's been mentioned as being interested in them. So, the value could be higher for those teams because of the desperate spot that they're in, and therefore you have to look at it, right? And if he's more valuable to those guys long-term to where they're able to give up something, then you have to look at that. Again, I'm saying the ifs, right? But why does keeping Jalen Smith make sense? What's the flip side of this conversation? Number 1, he provides something that this roster is lacking severely, and that's shooting. A 37% three-point shooting on a team that doesn't have a lot of three-point shooters, you want that to translate to spacing for Nick Claxton or even Zach Collins or Caleb Bramatis when they're out there with him. He provides rim protection, another thing that could be a strength of this Bulls team this year as well, right? I think that matters. When you look at it, yeah, Josh Giddey's an improved shooter. Caleb Wilson is still unproven at the NBA level so far. You're hoping he's going to be ahead of schedule. And then you have a non-shooting center in Nick Claxton as well. So, those Jalen Smith, Nick Claxton minutes with Modest or Caleb Wilson I'm really interested in, right? Last year when Modest was at the 3 and Jalen was at the 4, we became a really amazing shot blocking team, a rim protecting team. You add Nick Claxton into those minutes and it gets even stronger, right? So I'm interested to see him with Caleb Wilson or with Modest Buzelis. I do think this is that, he is the offensive backup to Nick Claxton in some ways. Like, we don't know if Zach Collins is going to stay 100% healthy. Zach Collins is a two-way player, but you can't really bet on his health. He's been so unhealthy over the course of his whole career, not even just his Bulls tenure. And so because of that, you may not be able to afford to move off Jalen, even if you have a fear that he's going to leave in the offseason next year. We know the rim protection that Claxton brings, all those type of things. And Jalen Smith brings pick and pop shooting, offensive rebounding, more floor spacing, still the ability to protect the rim a little bit too. So you have that part. Then I also think number 3 reason of why keeping Jalen Smith makes sense, he fits Tiago Splitter's identity and play style hugely. When you look at it, Splitter's Portland team finished 2nd in offensive rebounds, 6th in total rebounds, 7th in made threes, and 5th in blocks. Jalen Smith can help with all. He contributes to all 4 of those areas for this team. And so therefore, your head coach and Tiago Splitter could very well value what Jalen Smith brings to this team. And he could be, not to say he's irreplaceable, but the value's there. And therefore, once the value's there, you kind of hold on to some guys. I think number 4, the versatility that he offers into this lineup. He can play with Claxton. He can back Claxton up. He can play with Zach Collins. He can play in replacement of Zach Collins. If Zach Collins is not healthy, he can be on the floor with either Caleb Wilson or Modest Buzelis. Him and Josh Giddey developed a good chemistry. There's not a single lineup that I can think of where Jalen Smith doesn't make some sense into in any combination of these players, and that is his ability to pick and roll, pick and pop shooting, and his rim protection and the rebounding. It makes it such an easy fit for all these lineups. I once called the bench potentially Tiago's toolbox, right? And so when you have a player like a Jalen Smith, he can become a multi-tool in that toolbox. And therefore, it makes it really hard to think of it. Like I said, Leonard Miller could replace most of that, if not all of that. There's a possibility of that. And then you're cool. But as it stands right now, he's probably the most proven player in that, because even with Leonard Miller finishing the season strong, it was March. Those type of things weren't playing against the best competition, even though I was really impressed by Leonard Miller in his minutes with Josh Giddey and with Modest Buzelis personally. So nonetheless, right? So there you go in regards to that. And then the fifth reason why I think is that he still's young and fits the timeline. He's 26 years old, about to be 27 years old. Keeping him would mean that you're choosing a young veteran with experience that already has shown chemistry with some of the players on your team. You're going to know how strong that chemistry is, even more so with Tiago and this team in training camp. I see that it'd be different if the contract was crazy. At less than $10 million, listen, it's great. And I think that because Jalen needs those 18 to 22 minutes, but can play two positions legitimately for you in any type of lineup that you want, that versatility could be there, that, he fits that timeline, and you don't want to let that go. Let's say that Leonard Miller doesn't follow up the end of his season with a strong season this year. It makes keeping a player like Jalen Smith even more higher up on the Bulls, requirement list. And then I think I don't think you can replace his production with the value, like I said, unless it's Leonard Miller on that rookie scale deal. And so therefore, we'll see if Bryson Graham reaches the same conclusion. But if you want to maintain flexibility, having a player in Jalen Smith that can do as many things as what he can do without necessarily needing, a huge amount of shots or something like that, that's what you look at. And then I think when you look at the teams that are interested in what they can really offer, the Los Angeles Lakers sent out so many picks for Walker Kessler. They're not sending anything else, right? You're not going to get a first-round pick from the Lakers anyway. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they're not trading any of their first-round picks, not for Jalen Smith. So then you're looking at what? And don't even get me started on if you say, oh, well, just send us TSJ. Fuck no. Don't get me wrong. I love TSJ like everybody else. He's from the city, those type of things. But for Jalen and what Jalen has already proven to do, man, I get it. And some people are going to say, but Haize, Terrence Shannon Jr. could turn into our long-term too. And I get that. I really do. I get that. But I just think Terrence Shannon Jr. is something that you hope can turn into an NBA player, while you have a player that at bare minimum is a role NBA player for sure. Then you have the Golden State Warriors, right? And they need that player there. But what is there anything that you're enamored with on their roster? Because don't talk to me about pods. I don't want that, even with the hole that we have in the two. And then anything else, you're not giving up anything you just drafted, and you're not giving up any of your first picks as you're prepared for life without Steph. The Philadelphia 76ers, I don't see them giving up anything either, right? So because of that, I think that when you look at the acceptable returns for Jalen Smith, if you can get legitimate second-round picks that are actually going to be high up in the second round, maybe, right? Maybe a useful young player that, it's just that they're betting on more of the veteranship of Jalen Smith, and you could take a shot on a young player. Cool, right? A young guard, a young wing with some upside, some shooting upside. Cool. I think that it gets debatable when you talk about one good second-round pick or a young player that, needs tons of development that hasn't proven anything. We don't want to trade for another team's Noah Essengay when we're trying to develop our own Noah Essengay. That's what I mean by that. And something that the Bulls should immediately hang up the phone on. Anybody's talking about cash, a protected second-round pick, because I wish you fucking would. And then an older, veteran that really isn't giving much of anything, right? Those are the things that I think. I think the Bulls should keep Jalen Smith through training camp in the first portion of the season, and then make a decision at the trade deadline based off the value, who you've seen develop, who you've seen taking steps, and then make those decisions there. Because I tell you what, if the Bulls by the trade deadline are looking like they're ahead of whatever schedule they had in their mind, Jalen is the type of player that you could probably keep and can be ready for you and bring a consistent role player that you need. So let me know what you guys think on that part down below. But with that said, moving to the next topic, the NBA.com ranked the Chicago Bulls 13th in the East. 13th out of 15 teams in the Eastern Conference. Here's the thing. The Bulls only ranked ahead of Brooklyn and Milwaukee. And I'm going to say this, right, is that I'm not going to heavily debate this. The Bulls have a lot to prove. They have a new team, a first-time, full-time head coach, right? I think what you need in regards to this is that, 13th, when you look at why it does feel like it's kind of questionable in regards to it, Norman Powell adds a veteran, consistent shooter that doesn't need the ball a lot to be effective. That's something that the Bulls have missed for a long time. Nick Claxton gives the Bulls potentially a defensive anchor that we've been missing for this team and a lob threat that is the perfect mate with Giddey, Trey Jones, those type of guys. Caleb Wilson already looked ahead of schedule in Summer League, but then again, it's Summer League. So I just like I say, take the bad with a grain of salt. I can't say take the good and for that to be for one either, right? I can't, in fairness, say that. So you're looking at that part of it, right? Then you're looking at Josh Giddey. He already produced near triple-double numbers last season, and this team is better suited to his strengths, and we're going to see what he's going to do, right? And then you look at the starting five for the Bulls, which really for the first time in a long time, it feels logical. It feels like it fits, and we have sneaky depth on this team, right? Depth that albeit it's unproven right now in some of these guys, but if these guys start, like, we do have proven depth. Like Trey Jones and Jalen, you know what those guys are going to be. Zach Collins, you know what he's going to be when he's on the court. Then you have some wild cards, right? Almost everybody else between Rob Dillingham, Dalen Swain, Isaac Okoro, Leonard Miller, right? All these guys are kind of wild cards, but I tell you what, if any of those guys show a consistent NBA level of production, it's going to be there. The Bulls ranked second last season in ball movement, player movement, and drives per 100 possessions. Catch and shoot threes, three-point frequency, and shots attempted in the first 6 seconds of the shot clock. You look at this Bulls roster this upcoming season, they can not only take those things, but make them even bigger strengths. Last year, it felt like the style of play that we had was more of a gimmick because Billy Donovan wanted to get shots up. This season, because we have better structure on this roster, it actually feels like it's a sustainable play style that actually brings out a lot of our strengths. And that's the difference in this one, right? But also, there are reasons why the Bulls being in 13th place makes sense. The Eastern Conference's offseason was crazy. Philly added Jaylen Brown and LeBron James. Miami got Giannis Antetokounmpo. Indiana's bringing Tyrese Halliburton back. The Washington Wizards added AJ DeBonta and re-signed Trey Young and Anthony Davis. Toronto looks like they're going to add Kawhi Leonard whenever this aspiration thing gets done. New York is the defending champion. Detroit won 60 games last year, and Cleveland, Boston, Atlanta, or Orlando still are well-established teams that still look like they're going to be contending for playoff spots. The East is going to be absolutely crazy, right? NBA.com estimated that 11 Eastern Conference teams legitimately have playoff positions in this one, with the Washington Wizards also capable of entering that way. So that's per NBA.com, right? But I do think that this Bulls season and how exciting it could be. And I know there are Bulls fans who are like, hey, we can compete for the playoffs this year. And I'm not saying you're wrong, but when you look at the legitimate questions for this team, can the starters create enough spacing and play consistently enough? Is Caleb Wilson really ready to shoot and contribute at that level right away? Does Nick Claxton regain what he once was defensively, being in a new team where a system that kind of fits him a little bit more? Will the bench be reliable in what they do? And then can you prove any of Dillingham, Swain, or Noah Essengay be NBA ready? Because if any of those guys are ready for NBA minutes this season, it would create a completely different outlook for this bench unit as well, right? So then you also have to look at who's going to generate offense and points when Norman Powell or Josh Giddey sit. And if both those guys are sitting and that's why the stagger is going to matter so much for the Bulls, because if both those guys sit, our offensive creation and stuff goes well downhill unless Modest or Caleb Wilson are really ready to go, right? And I think that that's a fair place to look at it. It's like I try to always err in the area of fairness with it. There are fair questions around the Chicago Bulls team. I'm not going to act like they're not, but there are also some possible answers to those questions already on this roster. And a big set of those could be answered if Modest does make that third-year leap. Whatever that third-year leap, like people hear third-year leap, and I think they automatically assume that somebody means a star-level leap. I don't necessarily mean that. He can just turn into an even more highly productive, like looking like a guy that could be the second on a team. Like if Modest makes the leap to 18 and 20 points per game consistently with better shooting and just kind of dealing with the physicality better, that is a third-year leap, right? It may not be the superstar leap that some people are hoping for, but that is a legitimate leap. And so, Modest making that type of step also is something that you have to look at in that regard too. So let me know what you guys think. Hearing that the Chicago Bulls have been ranked 13th by NBA.com in the Eastern Conference, do you feel like that's a fair ranking? Do you think they're overlooking some things? Let me know that down below. Last topic of the day before we get out of here, Caleb Wilson, man. Caleb Wilson had a tweet, very simple, not even a lot said in it, but it was dense. He said this: "Just wanted to shout out everyone who bought my rookie jersey. I promise I'll make it worth the buy. C-Red." First of all, I love that he ended it in C-Red. But Caleb Wilson has continued to welcome everything that comes with being drafted, with a not a number one overall, but the 4th overall pick, the first pick in the draft by the Chicago Bulls. He wanted to be here. He wanted to be in the city. He wanted to be with his franchise. And I think he understands what that means, not only for him, but for Chicago Bulls fans, because it does mean a lot for those fans, right? And so this is a rookie of the year race that is shaping up to be very exciting, because all the guys in the top 4 and some not in the top 4 have serious chances to win rookie of the year. AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson, right? And then even outside of guys like maybe Braden Burries as well has a chance. So I think when you look at this one, yes, Caleb Wilson has a chance for a historic rookie season for the Chicago Bulls. But also, I'm perfectly fine if he has just a perfectly fine, rookie season as well. But make no mistake about it, a lot of what Bryson Graham does next, as far as accelerating the rebuild, how much of the ground floor, a lot of it is going to come down to, does Modest make a 3rd-year leap, but also how ready does Caleb Wilson look? Because if he shows flashes of being a star in his rookie year, not just good, but a star, then it accelerates it a little bit. Now, I still think you push it off probably until 2028 at the earliest, the same time where Modest is due for his extension. That may be where we see the huge swing moves happen. But you're going to be watching, and the NBA world is going to be watching Caleb Wilson to see what he can do, because it seemed like Summer League, for whatever it's worth, did open up fans' eyes to maybe we were a little bit sleep on that Caleb Wilson kid. And we'll see how much of that he can prove in his rookie year. I just want him to go out there and be the best version of himself, whatever that looks like. And that may mean that it's not the rookie year that some people are expecting. People will forget, Derrick Rose won rookie of the year, make no mistake about it, and he deserved it. But it's not like Derrick Rose came out dropping 20 on teams' heads every single night. So, Caleb Wilson, if he ends up having a 12, 14, 16 point per game season as a rookie, that's great, right? And if the defense is there, because Caleb Wilson's impact isn't just going to be scoring like you judge some rookies on. It's going to be in stocks. It's going to be in defense, on ball, off ball defense. It's going to be one of those things that people have to actually watch Caleb Wilson to see the impact that he does. And so for people that just look at the box score, he's going to do some things for you there too. But I think the thing that's going to make Caleb Wilson's rookie year really, really special is for the people that watch it every single game and watch the development. What does he do in week 1 that he's not doing by week 5? As far as games, what is he doing in game 1 that he's fixed and already learned by game 25? Then in game 50, right? Then in game 65. What does it look like at that part? The growth of Caleb Wilson over this season is something that I'm extremely excited about seeing. And it's not just about him coming in and being like this rookie phenom right away. It's about how he adjusts, because the mentality and the mindset that he plays and that he fights with, this is a guy that he's going to take on every single challenge. And when he falls short, he's going to go to the drawing board. He's going to go to his coach. He's going to go to whoever, his trainers. He's going to say, listen, I got cooked because of physicality. How do I get stronger? And that first offseason, man, it's going to be special as well. So, Caleb Wilson continues giving Bulls fans reasons to be excited, and I love him for it, because it goes to show you that mentality matters, and that's the thing that's going to be infectious throughout this team. And what he can really bring to help elevate this team right away is an infectious attitude, an infectious mind, and somebody who is ready to put in that work to truly be great. Because there's some doubters out there. Go out there and prove them wrong. Prove them wrong just through your natural play and who you are as a player. But that's going to do it for today's episode, man. I want to thank all you guys for sticking through the entire of the episode. Make sure you guys sound off in the comment section. I want to hear how you feel about everything from Jalen Smith to the Bulls being ranked 13th to Caleb Wilson's tweet there about living up to it, and he's going to make it worth it. Let me know what you guys think on all that down below. Otherwise, make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode or an upload. You can follow us at Bull Central Pod on every social media platform. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. And lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See red if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.